Hello. Good, whatever time it is where you are. It's just gone 5 p.m. in Nairobi, Kenya. It's a wet Sunday afternoon. It's just been pouring, and we are thanking God because the temperatures are now comfortable. It's been very, very warm lately, but it's very, very good to be back here. Sorry, I wasn't able to do this yesterday. I finally decided to take the pressure off myself and do this when I can. I had thought I'll do this in 10 straight days, but this has not been possible. But here we are. I will go on until I finish up, and we still have quite a few sessions to go. Today we are covering chapter 6 of the book Play to Win. Now, if you don't already have the book Play to Win, then I suggest you download your ebook. There is a link right here where you can download the ebook. It's absolutely free. Now, a quick recap: we have already covered half of the book because it has 10 chapters, and I have been doing one chapter starting with chapter 1, which was Life Isn't Fair. And we talked about how you have a unique ability, you have an unfair advantage, you have at least one. Hardly anybody has one, you have several actually. Uh, Gifts, several talents, what I like to call your unfair advantage, something that's a unique ability, something that you do better than anyone else in the world, something that you love doing, something that brings out the best in you. That's what I call your unfair advantage. So when I say life isn't fair, I'm actually asking you to play your unfairness, to play your advantage. In what area do you excel? You owe it to yourself and to the world to operate in that area. So chapter 1 was life isn't fair. And then we talked about chapter 2 being why play? Why would you want to play at all? Why would you want to compete at all? And we came up with at least 2 reasons why you'd want to. First of all, you really don't have a choice because life is very, very competitive. Anything that you're doing, whether you run a business, whether you're employed, there's at least 10,000 people who could be employed to do that job, who could get that business and do a better job than you. So there is competition. You want to become the best at what you're doing. So you might as well compete in those areas where you have an unfair advantage. You don't want a fish that's competing in running or a bird that's competing in swimming. If you put a bird in the air, that's the area of unfair advantage. There's always the analogy that is given of an eagle. When an eagle wants to kill a snake, it will grab the snake and fly out into the air about 3,000 meters into the air. Now, that disorients the snake. The snake's comfort zone is on the ground. So, as soon as the eagle has taken the snake out into its unfair advantage, then the snake has no fighting chance. That's when it's able to easily kill it and eat it. So, we're talking about your area of unfair advantage. And another reason we gave why you would want to compete was this: you want to do that thing which you're gifted in doing because it gives you pleasure. It's quite simply something that gives you pleasure. There is something you enjoy doing. There is something you enjoy doing. Why not allow yourself to do it? Don't go through life like life was supposed to be uncomfortable, like life is supposed to be miserable. No, it is not. Find that thing so that then there is no demarcation between your work and your life, so that you enjoy your work. Even if you do something else for a career, find some time to do the things you love to do because there's a very good reason why you like what you like. God made you that way for a reason, all right? And so, chapter 3, we actually picked your game. Like, what's your game? Like, what is this unfair advantage? There's a lot of us who will go into adulthood without exactly knowing what our gifting is, what our area of unfair advantage is. And so, in chapter 3, we give you ways in which you can identify your unfair advantage. And we say things like, what are some of the things that you like, that you enjoy doing? That's the first thing you want to ask yourself. Another thing you want to ask yourself is, what do you do for free? What do you volunteer to do? What do you do without caring whether you're getting paid or not? That's a good pointer to what your unfair advantage is. And then a third question is, what have people complimented you for doing? You may not become aware of this. You might not be thinking much of your ability because you might have had it all your life. But other people will compliment you, and that will point you to what your area is of unfair advantage. And then number 4, what did you get in trouble for as a child? Those are 4 questions you want to ask yourself. One or more of those is going to point you to what your area is of unfair advantage. It might be something very obvious, it might be something visible, It might be a combination of several skills, but there's that quality to you that makes you you. And you want to identify this thing, you want to operate in this thing. So that was chapter 3, and then we move to chapter 4 about taking action, because you could study all your life and not improve your life. The things that are going to improve your life are going to be those things that you act on. What are you going to act on? I was just listening to a teacher recently who was saying the antidote for depression is action. The solution to anything is action. You'd rather be doing the wrong thing than not be doing anything at all. You want to stay in action. Usually the difference between one person and the other, when one person succeeds and another one doesn't, a lot of times the difference is going to be in how much action were they willing to put in. I remember at one point there was an Olympics going on, and I do come from Kenya, which is an athletic country. And so the Olympics is something we'll watch keenly because, hello, we take home a lot of medals. Very proud of being Kenyan. And basically they were saying this about the athletes who win. The people who, for example, will come to an Olympics, win a medal, go home and come back 4 years later and win a medal. I find that very, very impressive, because that means that person kept themselves fit. It's okay to be fit. It's doable to be fit for a day or two, but 4 years later, you come back with the same level of fitness that you can win an Olympic medal. And I remember one commentator once saying, the people who excel in athletics are those who can endure the monotony of practice. You have to be the kind of person who can endure the monotony of practice, the monotony of staying in action, because it's those things that you do over and over and over and over and over again. Again, I had a teacher say this to me recently, that sometimes as entrepreneurs, what we do wrong is this. We do one thing, it succeeds, and then we don't do that thing again. You discover the one thing that brought you the most customers, but then you move on to do other things. No. Do that same thing. Do that same thing again. Whatever action has brought you, whether it was, I'm just using a random example here. Say, for example, you took out a Facebook advert and that worked well for you. Keep doing that. That has proved to work. Don't listen to too much advice and move on from one thing to another to another. Stay with those things that have worked. But whatever you do, stay in action. That's what we were talking about when we discussed chapter 4. And so we moved on to chapter 5, and that was pay the price. Basically, what we were saying when we talked about pay the price was this. For you to get into your unfair advantage, for you to fight in your own game, for you to play to win, there's going to be a price to pay, and the price is hardly ever in cash. If it was in cash, it would be very easy to pay. The price that you have to pay has to be in the disciplines that you have to cultivate, in the habits that you have to take on, in those habits you have to share, in the way you have to manage your time. We give all sorts of examples of some of the things that you will have to do that amount to paying the price for the goal that is going to be your ultimate dream. All right, so that is what we have covered so far, and today we are getting into chapter 6, which is get around winners. And basically what we are talking about here is, I'm sure you've heard this a thousand times, that bad company corrupts good morals. That's, your mother must have told you that. Everybody's mother told them that. Don't play with the wrong children. I always find it funny because no mother thinks their child is the wrong company. No mother ever thinks, they just tell you don't hang around with bad children. We are mothers, and so we don't think our child could be the bad company. But basically we are talking about I like this analogy that says eagles don't fly with chickens. If you think about an eagle and the altitude at which an eagle flies, and there's also the adage that eagles fly alone, but that's another topic for another day. But at this point, we are saying that eagles don't fly with chicken. In other words, chicken usually are pecking the ground. An eagle is flying at 3,000 meters above the ground. There is no way those two animals are going to be together. If you know that you're an eagle, you want to hang out with other eagles. All right? Now, I quoted 1 Corinthians here that says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. All right? Now, I've said this once, I've said it 10,000 times. that God's currency is not cash, God's currency is people. Now, I'm not trying to change your religious persuasion here. Go right on believing exactly what you believe. But there is something that you're praying for. There's something that you're trusting that you will get from heaven. Okay? God has never been known to write you out a check. God has never been known to uproot you and put you in. God has never been known, to knock your door and deliver. Hey, this is FedEx. This is your delivery sign here. No, that's not the way God works. God's currency is people. Whatever it is you're trying to get, it's going to reach you through people. So then don't you think you want to pay attention to how you relate with people? I always believe that there is no one that you've met for nothing. Everybody is of some benefit today or in the future, either to teach you a lesson, either directly or indirectly to affect your life. At the end of the day, there is a benefit to everybody who is in your life. So you do want to be careful how you handle people. Your relationship with people is what we are talking about in this chapter. Now, I'm going to give just a few pointers. And like I have been saying, as I've been doing this serialization, I'm not reading this book. I'm not going to, I've just offered you the book. You can download it, you can read it. So I'm not going to go, like point by point what is in the book. I'm just giving the overall, the generalized thoughts of what I was discussing in this book. And the first point I want to make here is that your network is equivalent to your net worth. In other words, your financial value is going to be the average. You have had this already. You are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with. That you're the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. So I actually read this concept the first time in a financial book. I'm very sure you're familiar with Robert Kiyosaki's Rich with Dad books. Now, I was reading the cash flow quadrant, and somewhere in the middle of the book, he says, stop reading. Stop reading. Take out a pad and paper and pen and write down 5 of the people you spend most of your time with. And I did that, and I thought, okay. Then he said, you are the average. In dollars and cents, you're the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. Whoa, I had to edit my list of the people I hang around with, because listen, this is the only chance I get at life. If I was going to live 300 years, it would be okay. I can goof up 100 years and everything and then start all over. But this is the only shot I get at life. So I crossed off some people. Now, I'm not saying delete people's numbers from your phone. All I'm saying is reduce contact. Reduce contact. There's people who are depressing. Let's face it. There's people who are depressing. There's people I won't pick up their call in the morning. They're going to ruin my day. There's people who see the world as cloudy, as bad, as the world has done them wrong. Reduce contact with such people. They deflate you. If you had this good idea, share it with some people. That's an idea that's dead. So you want to be careful who you hang around with. Hang out with people. I have a teacher who says it this way. Hang around people who make you stand on tippy toes. Hang out with people you have to reach up to so that you're learning stuff from them all the time. Don't always be the biggest fish in your pond. Now, while there's the value of you mentoring people who are younger, who are lesser than you in whichever area we're talking about, but you want to intentionally hang out with people who will want to pour into you, people you're learning from, people you aspire to be like. But there's another point to that as well. Make yourself worthy of their company. If, for example, you're trying to hang out with the person who leads your industry, whoever is the greatest person in the particular industry you want to get into, you have to give them reason to hang out with you. So come to the marketplace, come to the world, come to the table with, how may I serve? Don't look to get from people. Don't sit people down and tell them, I want this from you, I want this from you. No. Find ways to learn from people. Find ways to learn from people. I was very inspired by what my daughter did at one point. I have a daughter who is into photography, and she started right out of high school. She wanted to become a photographer. And what she did was this. She found somebody she aspired to work with, she aspired to be like. And while she was just starting campus, she would spend all her free time hanging around that person, being the helper, give me this, do this, do this. She learned everything she needed to know about the business that she was going into of photography. She was the background person. She, while serving, she was able to be useful to another person. So these people ended up teaching her everything. She made a lot of contacts. Long story short, 6 years later, she's still in photography. She's doing really well in photography. She started out by serving people so that she could learn from them. So give people a reason to want to hang out with you. Let me just say that again before I move away from that point. You are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. And when we are saying the average here, we are talking dollars and cents. You are the average of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. So it's very simple. Take a pen and paper, write down 5 of the people you spend time with, and figure out if that's the 5 you want to keep in your life or not. All right? Number 2, find a mentor. Find a mentor. I can't say enough about what a mentor can do for you. There's the expression that says that experience is the teacher of fools. If there's a pit hole somewhere along the road and I have fallen into that pit hole, I'll be able to point that out to you. So work with people who've already been down the road you have been. Now, there's a big difference between a mentor and an idol. You do not want an idol, someone who lives 3,000 kilometers from you, somebody who's in international press. That's an idol. That's not a mentor. A mentor, in my mind, is somebody who has been where you want to go and is willing to hold your hand. That is someone you talk to regularly. That is someone you run your ideas with on, someone you run your ideas on, and someone who is able to be truthful to you. Now, I have a mentor who is extremely blunt with me. He tells me off. He's like, oh my God, you think that's an idea? You want someone who gives it to you straight, because you don't want someone who massages you. You want somebody who, as long as you're serious about getting where you want to go, you want to make very sure that you're hanging around people who will tell you what you need to hear, people who are going to tell you off when you need telling off. All right? All right, and point number 3, lose those friends that have become a liability. Easier said than done. I'll be the first person to point that out. But if you knew just how much it's costing you to keep some friends, I promise you, you wouldn't keep them. The last thing you need in your life is a negative energy person. You do not want somebody. Now, if you're listening to this, obviously you're the kind of person who is progress minded, because I don't do this for entertainment. This is for people. The people I draw to myself are people who are looking to progress their lives, people who are looking to make their tomorrow better than their today. Those are people who will be very intentional about their friends, about their company. Those are people who understand how important it is to keep the company of the right people. Lose those friends who have become a liability. I often like to talk about a friend that I had in school, and when we finished, and she was a lot of fun to be around. She was my very good friend. She was very, very fun to be around. Now, in our day, when we finished school, it was fashionable to move to the US. Now it's fashionable to come back home. But in those days, which of course betrays my age, it was very fashionable to move to the US. And now this person thought that the solution is to move to the US. Solution was to move to the US. And all she talked about was, I'm going to move to the US, I'm going to go to the US, the economy here is bad, things are bad, things are bad, things are bad. But it's so difficult to move to the US. In her case, it was not difficult to move to the US, it was impossible. You know why? She had never applied even once. Now, who do you have to be for them to bring you a visa at home? If you haven't applied for something, you're obviously not going to get it. Even if the applicants are 25,000 for one position, the least you can do is apply. That's a first step. So she's the kind of person who always had the negative side. So she's actually, when in the story I was giving earlier about Rich Dad book that says write down, she was number 1 on my list, people you hang around all the time. I had to reduce contact. I had to completely reduce contact because I was going nowhere fast if I was going to keep hanging around with that lady, right? So you want to lose those friends who have become a liability. Is it going to be easy to do? No. Is it going to hurt some people's feelings? Yes. Is it going to be some people who are your relatives? Yes. Can you afford not to do so? No. This is the only life that you get. So depending on how serious you want to look at your life, then you want to lose those friends that have become a liability. Number 4, become a good listener. It's okay to say hang out with people, But it won't help you to hang out with the greatest person on earth if you're not going to listen to them. There was a time when the US President Barack Obama was in our country. And on one afternoon, he went to hang out with some people, you know, one on one in a very informal session. He was sitting there with an open shirt and just listening to them. And what shocked me was some of those people, when they got the mic, is they talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. I'm thinking, you are with the leader of the free world. Do you think you can listen? Just, that guy has so much to teach you. That guy has, what can you possibly tell the president of the US? Are you trying to impress the guy? Just listen. Sometimes we make the great mistake when we're in the presence of greatness. We don't listen. We try to impress them. By the way, and this is a long story for another day, if we could lose our passion, our craving for impressing people, if you could lose it, we could gain so much more. If you went to every conversation wanting to learn, if you met every new contact wanting to learn, if you approached every mentor wanting to learn, there is so much more you could do. And talking about that, it just strikes me that a lot of people don't realize that their boss has a lot to teach them. There's a lot of employed people. Now, I've spent more time being an employer than being employed. But a lot of people who are employed, and I've had conversations with many, they tend to look down at their boss. They tend to hate their boss. They tend to have a bad attitude towards their boss. And I keep on saying, there's a very good reason your boss is your boss. There's a lot you could learn from your boss. So make it a point to ask questions and make it a point to listen. Make it a point to listen. If you could do anything to improve your life, it would be becoming a good listener. So whenever you're around greatness, whenever you're around people who have something to teach you, and even a small child has something to teach you, learn to be a good listener. All right? Next is develop a network. Develop a network. Now, there's formal networking and there's also informal networking. There's events that are held. Of course, now a lot of events are virtual, but we are going back to normal life very soon, and events are going to start happening again. There's cocktails and parties and everything that are held deliberately for networking. There's organizations that are for network. Google up your particular industry, and I can promise you there will be a network somewhere near you where you can hang out with people. Now, the reason you want to network is this, and we already said that your net worth is equivalent to your network. Your network is equivalent to your net worth. People don't do business with clients, with suppliers, blah, blah, blah. People do business with friends. So it doesn't matter that this is a bank you want to borrow from. It doesn't matter that this is a supplier you want to engage. At the end of the day, they want to be considered your friend. So you don't want to go to them formally and in the office and in the application and forms and everything. You don't want your interaction to be around formalities. You want the interaction to be about a casual conversation. You want to have, you know, for example, if you have a situation in your community and you need the police, you need to have a policeman saved in your network. If you need to have if you're having a party and you need a flower arrangement, you need to have a florist that's your friend. You need to have people who can do things for you to do a favor. In as much as you want to have a lot of money, there's a lot of currency in networks. There's a lot of currency in networks. You want to have, and in order to develop a good network, first of all, like we said already, don't go to people to take. Go to people to give. Be more of a giver than a taker. Don't be the kind of person whenever the phone rings and it's you, they know you want to ask for something. They know you want to ask for something. Now, I'm just reminded right now that I went at one point to the funeral service of a lady I had known, and she was very humble because when she was alive, I had thought she was the next person. I just knew her, you know. She went to church with me, and she was someone I just knew and said hi to and was familiar with, you know. I did not know how glorious she was until we went to her funeral service, because I promise you, everybody who is anybody was there. And I remember the head of state saying this about her. He said whenever she approached me, it was to do a favor to someone else. She never came for her own favors. I thought to myself, how lovely is that? What a great compliment. Don't be the kind of person who only ever goes to ask for things. Don't be the kind of person who is forever asking favors so that whenever you call me, I know you want something from me. Say, for example, you're reaching out to someone that you know who is in a position of authority, who is in a position of leadership. Ask yourself, how many people do you think have reached out to them since morning? Don't be asking for favors all the time. So if you're going to be talking about your network, also ask yourself, what are you giving? Remember that in as much as we are saying your networks are going to do favors for you, are going to open up doors for you and everything, the world is a mirror. People are only going to give you as much as you're giving yourself. So you want to make sure that you are the kind of person who is doing favors as well. Because if you want to make a good sale, how do you do that? Give someone else a good sale, help someone else to achieve the thing it is that you're looking for. So the way to grow your network is to be as useful to other people as they are useful to you. All right. Now, I don't want to go too much into the details of networks. There's a lot in this chapter that you can read. You know, you can join groups that are formal. You can join. And I think in Africa, we network very well. We make friends very well, especially as ladies. So I gave a lot of hints there to do with how you can develop your networks and all of that. So you want to keep in constant touch. You don't want, I like to give this example. If, for example, I was buying medical insurance. For example, insurance is something, whether it's car insurance, medical insurance, whatever kind of insurance, it's paid once a year. So don't be the kind of person, if I was your insurance agent and I talked to you at the beginning of the year, and then I didn't hear from you again, you didn't hear from me again until the next year. The next time I call you, I'm saying, hey, it's time for you to. So whenever I call you, I want your check. That's a very, very bad way to approach it. I could be the kind of person who is in your life throughout the year. That's actually something I could say about my insurance agent, because whenever anyone approaches me or wants to sell insurance, I'm like, you know what, don't bother. Don't bother, because the person I buy insurance from is the person I buy insurance from. He gives me a good service when tax throughout the year. He doesn't come to me always. It's not only when it's time for a check that he gets in touch with me. So you want to avoid some of those things when you're thinking about how to handle your networks. I can't believe it's almost half an hour since I started. I like to keep these conversations short so that then I don't bore you too much. And the points to ponder, if you are joining us today, then you would know that at the end of every chapter in this book, there is the section that is called points to ponder. And in this one, I have said, number one, it's obvious, we talked about it already. Write down 6 of the people you spend most of the time with. Now, the reason I added 1 and said 6 was number 1 would be your family. So just write down family and then go ahead and write 5 people of the ones that you spend most of your time with. Now take a long look at that list because they represent your average. Now for each of the names above, ask yourself, why do you spend time with them? Is this person fun? Is this person informative? Is this person a connection for you? What is it that's the now, you can be quite sincere. These are things that you do to introspect, to think through, all right? Because in any relationship, someone needs to be benefiting. Either I'm gaining from you or you're gaining from me. There must be benefit in a relationship. In an ideal relationship, it's mutual. I'm benefiting from you as you're benefiting from me. So write that down. And the next one is, God answers our prayers through people. Make a list of the people you should seek out for the information and connections that you need. I'm sure as we have gone through this, you probably identified what your area of unfair advantage is. Maybe you have a goal that you're trying to get into. Make a list of some of those people who would be useful contacts to them. And then I have given a list there of some of the people you might need in your network. So you might want to write a name against any of those. And the first one is best friend. Everybody needs a best friend. You need somebody with whom you don't have to wear any mask. You need somebody who knows you for you and loves you anyway. I always like to define my friends as people who know me and love me anyway. So you want to have a best friend, you want to have a doctor, a lawyer, an auto mechanic, a mentor, a coach, you want to have a banker, a celebrity, a real estate agent, travel agent, police officer, finance consultant. These are just examples of people you might need in your network, because you never know when you need a favor. You need somebody who you are in touch with at all times, all right? So go through this, write down a name in any of those. Just scroll down your phone, see what your network. Now, if I was going to summarize this entire chapter, if I was going to say, if you don't do anything of what we have recommended during this discussion, I would say do this. Take a pen and paper and write down 5 of the people you spend most of your time with. Take a long look at that list and make any adjustments you need to. Have a very good day, have a very good evening, have a very good morning, whatever time it is for you. And I will see you again tomorrow when we consider chapter 7. All right? Chapter 7 will be win the war, not just the battle, long-term thinking. All right? Thank you so much. I will see you again tomorrow.